and welcome to PPC Live The Podcast. I'm your host, Anu, the founder of PPC Live. And if you're used to hearing advice from PPC experts about how to ensure that we're keeping up with the ever-changing landscape, don't worry, you are still in the right place. Every week, I'm speaking to a different PPC expert about their biggest F-up this time. So not just, advice about what they're doing in the accounts. It's the really interesting stories that we go for here. We're sharing how the mistakes happened, what has been disappointing, what was expected, what was not expected, who are helpful and people who were not. This week, I speak to the very lovely Amy Hebdon, who is an international speaker and, leads a fantastic agency, Paid Search Magic. Paid Search Magic. I knew that. I definitely knew that. She leads the paid search agency, Paid Search Magic. And she shares a couple of stories as well about, some mistakes that happened early in her career, how she felt about it, just things that she'll do differently so that you wouldn't make the same mistake. All right, let's go speak to Amy. Hello, Amy. Welcome to PPC Live, the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure. Yeah, just before this, Amy and I were chatting and we are talking about how she does so many amazing talks. We met in person. It was so lovely last year at SMX Advanced. It was really great. Her talks were one of the ones that people loved. And she was like maybe saying that she might be taking a break from speaking. And I'm really going to try and convince her, even after this, to not do that because we really need to hear from more experts like Amy. You've got such a fantastic and unique perspective. And this is a surprise. I wasn't going to say this, and I just remember this now. I've got a special thanks for Amy because when I started working for Search Engine Land, it was a new role to me. And just out of the blue, I got a LinkedIn message from you, Amy, just saying, Anu, I love your articles and I love what you're doing. And oh my God, when sometimes imposter syndrome hits you and you just need to see that. It's where someone that has no ulterior motive just goes, you're doing a good job. And that just meant everything to me. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you for all the work you do over there. It's incredible.
Thank you. I know my audience will like, I know you do this all the time. You just start chatting and you've not even introduced us to your guest. So let's introduce Amy. Amy is a very much renowned, long-running paid search expert who has decades of experience running results-driven SEM campaigns, trying to very much achieve aggressive CPAs and CPLs across the pharmaceutical industry, financial services, tech, consumer retail, restaurants, hotels, etc. Has audited more than 100 accounts, certified in Google AdWords, analytics, Market Motive, MetClabs. These are even brand names I have not heard of. Has experience in social media, SEO, landing page testing, content marketing, display, and email marketing. And I'm seeing even more of that from PPC experts, especially the ones I really expect to have that wide variety of knowledge, which is very important, especially with the whole AI world coming into of that whole broad knowledge of knowing how the other channels work, even though you specialize in paid search. So really great one to see. Fun fact, so Amy and her husband are going to be raising quail. I have never heard of anyone who raises quail. And how's your research going on with that? Are you quite hopeful that you'll be able to get it right?
Yeah, I mean, apparently quails kind of tend to have a death wish, and so that's the scary thing is that they die very easily. So we're trying to figure out how to give them the best environment possible so that doesn't happen.
I
But
know.
but we're excited to have them because the roosters are quiet, which means you can have male quail as opposed to chickens where we can just have chickens and not roosters, and so can be a little more self-sustaining that way, even though you get smaller eggs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to go out of your way to try to raise, a new kind of animal, you should do the research to make sure that you know how to keep them alive. Because you were saying earlier on that some people just write on Facebook that saying that they just gave them some kind of food and they died and they don't know what to do.
If you just buy an animal like I don't know, buy a toy, and then you're like, oh, I didn't figure it out, and so it died. Like that's way too high of a consequence. Like you have to know what you're getting into.
Absolutely. Know what you're getting yourself into, which I also said that it's a very great translation of her skills in paid search. She's all about knowing what you're getting into and helping us do that as well. And yeah, going on to what we're going to talk about next, Amy proposed two stories, and I was like, the second one really grabbed my attention because it was one of those cases where it puts yourself in a difficult position. even though you felt you were doing the right thing at the time. And sometimes that's how mistakes look like. In that moment, you do think you're doing the right thing and you're going to do the right thing by your customers. So yeah, thank you so much, Amy, for being able to share the story with us. This is something that a lot of us, I'm sure, will learn from. So yeah, please take it away, Amy. What's the F up you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, so like you said, it's something that at the time I thought I was doing the right thing, but which was that we were in a situation where the the creative team had decided to run creative that really was not compatible with Google Ads. It was a gym, a fitness wellness, I guess a fitness center gym, and they were using a campaign. What they were trying to promote was like really just like bodybuilding and just they some creative that was not suitable for it was not family safe, right? And I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't a big deal. It was like you wouldn't necessarily look at it and say, "Oh, that's pornography." But Google was. Google was saying, "We're not going to run this because, it's exposing too much skin or whatever." And it was just kind of like people were a little glossy and oiled up and whatever, and they just didn't like it. It didn't look like gym to them. So we kept
Oh.
on not being able to run the creative. And so this, is a continued problem throughout the campaign. And so we'd be
Mm.
pushing back, for the client, but then the person who was our point of contact was very, very junior person and
Oh.
just did not have the ability to manage or to negotiate that situation. And so
Yeah.
he'd be like, well, the creative team likes it, so run it. It's like, okay, but we can't. So one time we all had this big hands-on where like we're talking with the CEO, the C-suite, the leadership team, and everyone was
Mm-hmm.
there, and we were doing our report about here's what's going on. And like these are the people where you have to say here's what paid search even means, right? Because they don't
Yeah.
know. They're like, well, what's the
Yep.
difference between that and SEO? So everyone, the higher ups are all there. And so I'm like, I'm going to make my case about why we can't have this creative running anymore. And I did. I was able to convince, to get the attention of the leadership team of like, this is not appropriate. We need to rethink this strategy because this doesn't work on Google.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, I did what I needed to do. But what actually happened is that the other team that was like producing all this creative, they did not share that opinion that that was
Mm.
the right thing. They felt like I really threw them under the bus. They went and talked with my manager afterwards and had this special meeting and was saying how I was inappropriate. And it didn't like I didn't get in trouble with my company, but I did absolutely like this was a team that I would have liked to continue to work with. Like they were good people, and I kind of burned that bridge with them that they didn't like the way I handled it. And so it was not the right approach. Like I wasn't thinking through
Mm-hmm.
everything. I was just trying to get my point across, but kind of it came at a cost.
Yeah. Oh, that's annoying. And at what point was it just was it months later, or was there a point even maybe it was when the meetings were happening that made you think, oh no, I shouldn't have done that? At what point did it really hit you that that wasn't the right strategy to go ahead with?
Well, I'll be honest, like during the meeting, like they did not seem happy with what I was saying, and I didn't care because I knew, that was their response this whole time was like, you don't get to dictate what creative does. I'm like, but I'm running like there's no point in doing this creative that it is incompatible with Google.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were like pushing back, like I known they would push back because they always defended their choice, right?
Yeah.
Because they had essentially the buy-in of leadership because leadership didn't know about this other issue. But it wasn't until like they had scheduled this meeting with my boss. I'm like, oh man, this isn't just like a difference of opinion that got worked out. This is like I just lost that chance to work with this
Relax.
other potential referrer of business that they didn't want to work with me anymore.
Okay. So were you taken off the accounts, or
No, no, I mean, because my team didn't really care, like, they stood by me in that decision,
okay?
but it was just that as far as my relationship with the people on this other team was, compromised after that.
Compromise. Okay. And did that affect any like future decisions or like any recommendations you'd make? Would they then still take would they still take so you kept working on the account. There are different decisions to be made about different creatives after that. Did they pay more attention to what you were doing, or were they just they were where they would they go around you for comms? How did they deal with the situation in terms of working from you with you after that?
That's a good question, and at this point, it's like 9 years ago, so I'm trying to remember, like, if there are any specific things, it's
Yeah.
what more like lost opportunities that I remember than, like,
Yeah.
that, you know, like it came
Yeah,
back to bite me. I don't remember anything specific like that, but there
sure.
definitely could have been that I just like thankfully blocked out. Like, I don't know about you, but like my mess ups keep me like worried about it all through the
Absolutely.
night, every night. I'm
Yes,
like, oh, remember how I did that dumb thing? So
yes.
if I'm able to forget something, thank goodness.
I know, which is why I'm always so grateful when people that are, you could come and share these stories because it is that kind of thing that makes you think, oh God, you can't believe you did that, but you've put it in the back and you've moved on from it. So yeah, this podcast, I don't know, I do know it kind of brings a bit of PTSD for some people, and I feel like I need to apologize to
And
people
just
for
to be
that.
clear, this is not the worst thing that's ever happened. This is just something that's different than maybe what your listeners have. I've made a lot of mistakes. Like you said, I had to choose which one to do. It's not like,
Yeah,
oh, one time someone got mad at me, the end. Like there's real stuff, right? But this is probably a little bit different than the normal, like, oh, I messed up
yeah.
on a setting or I let something go for too long.
And so, what do you do? What could you have done differently? Because it's this whole podcast is about let's learn from it. You know, what's the different strategy or different approach you feel you should have done in that case?
Yeah, I think I really should have like considered my stakeholders better. You know, they are a stakeholder. They're not just someone I was trying to like strong arm into seeing things my way. Like they had
Mm,
buy-in from someone else who had given them approval. So what I should have done is like work within like okay, they have a perspective on this. I should have like been really really objective and considered how potentially emotionally charged it can be to say, "Hey, you're running porn." You know, like that's something people are going to respond to, but I don't
yeah,
necessarily need to play that card. You know, I could have absolutely said, "Hey, here's why we can't run these." You know, like run it up the chain and you know even in the big meeting just kind of be very very objective with it and say here's the problems we're handling it, you know, I think the creative team is doing a great job. What can we do to make sure that the creatives that we have to run and the landing pages we have to run for this are in compliance and really focus on the compliance part of it rather than saying everyone's ignoring this thing we have to do. Like I could have been a lot more um just I'll say a better sport about it. You know, I could have
okay,
taken a better approach.
interesting. Again, to be fair, I think even with these kind of mistakes, they're nice positives to get out of it. Like I picked up on the fact that you said that your team were still on your side. They really like they were behind you. They understood why you gave that advice. How did that make you feel? And why is having someone in your corner in those kind of moments kind of important?
I mean, if they hadn't, like, if they had just been like, "Oh," it would have really surprised me because they
Mm,
hadn't said anything up until then, and so if they're like, "Oh, someone else had this reaction, so now we're gonna think," you know, because 'cause they're all in the room with me, and so
sure.
now we're gonna have a problem with it, I would have felt a little bit less
Mm,
of their willingness to, like, have my back, you know, if it
yeah.
changed the minute someone else said something, but, I mean, they were they're pretty consistent, so that was nice.
It's nice to have that. It's nice to have that consistent support. Do you feel that it was in a way? I mean, like it's not even necessarily about the fact that they knew that you were giving the right advice, but also in terms of the fact that the way you went about it. Did any of your team question you in terms of like, look, I mean, we know why you gave that advice, but we should have done it X, Y, Z because obviously they had meetings with your manager kind of thing and your managers took those meetings. Was there any feedback that the manager then gave to you for what you could have done differently?
No, and
No, not really.
I didn't get any feedback from them. So, like, I honestly,
Yeah.
I felt vindicated. I felt like, well, what I did was fine. It wasn't until like later, you know, years later. I mean,
Yeah.
I felt bad that like, oh, that's too bad that my correct decision resulted in this burnt bridge, right? That's kind of how I saw it at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later I'm like, you know, what, I didn't have to have taken that approach. I could have gone about it differently and probably got the same result. And I mean, at a certain point, I think you do have to decide to escalate something. And you do have to
Yeah.
say, am I willing to burn this bridge? Am I willing to light it all on fire? You
Yeah.
And I would say often that answer should be no. Like you need
Yeah.
to really have a good justification for it for that answer to be yes. Because we always think we're right. We always think we're like it's all just about the account. And a lot of times it is about relationships and not just the account. So the better you can be, the more tactful, the more empathetic you can be about communicating that,
Mm.
the more skilled you are in getting it to happen anyway, right? You don't have to
Yeah.
like go nuclear or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, people have gone more nuclear in past stories I've heard where it has ended in properly burnt bridges and yeah, firing and leaving the job. But in a way, Are you happy that you stayed on with that company? I mean, because I don't know, I sometimes do get, we spoke about the fact that sometimes you make a mistake and sometimes you just wish you could be like, okay, let me just leave because I'm never going to come back from this, and the whole environment is a little bit. Or was it just, were there like one of the other clients you work on, so it didn't take up all of your time?
Yeah, it was one of probably 8 clients I had at the time. It wasn't a big deal as far
Okay,
as that
all
goes.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, cool. Actually, we have time for this. I know you spoke about actually two things that you were going to bring up. Can we also bring up that second mistake that you talked about? Is that okay? About
Yeah.
how there was
Yeah.
an account that
Yeah.
didn't go
Sure.
live very closely. Yeah.
So this is before I was working at that company. So this is like we're looking at 12, 13 years ago now.
Yeah.
I was doing contract work for one company, then I was moving states to start working for a different company. And I just had a lot going on. I was like got engaged at the time. There's just a lot of stuff was happening.
Yeah.
And then one of the accounts that I was working on, there was someone else who was working on it too, and it was like a low touch, low maintenance account. So they took the other person
Mm.
off. They're like, "Okay, Amy, you're in charge of it this month." I'm like, "Okay, great." But then nothing happened with it. I didn't check in on it. I didn't bill them. I want to be really clear about this. This is not a case where I said, "Hey, I worked on it for a bunch of time." I didn't. I did not bill them for anything for that client because I didn't work on it at all. And then like 2/3 through the month, like probably the 20th, we got a notice that it was one of those accounts that had an insertion order, where you
Ah,
had to have like a signed insertion order every so often in order for like you
sure.
to be able to spend. It was like a really weird kind of archaic setup. But the
Yeah.
insertion order had expired and I hadn't gotten a notice about it. And so like nothing had run for like that far into the month. And so like I didn't say anything had run, but like I should have been so much more accountable for that than I was. I was just like kind of putting hours in and like, whatever. And I hadn't taken care of that. And so because the other person was off of the account and it was just on me, it was like 100% my mistake. And it looked bad, that because the client was still charging, like my client, the agency was still charging their client for
Yeah.
management and like no
Right.
management had gone into
I,
it.
I,
And yeah, so it was not good.
so did that result in drop in performance? If so, that means the account wasn't running during a period of time. At what point did the client then figure it out and go, well, what's happened during this time period?
I mean, it wasn't until the end of the month. Like the client, it was okay. It was a lower touch client, but
Okay.
they were very hands off. Like this is one of those like they had no idea what was happening within
Okay.
this particular part of the business until they
Yeah.
got a report like 2 months later that told them. And then
Okay.
there was like a woman whose entire job it was to put together the report, and it took
Sure.
her like a month, and so it wasn't
Okay.
like they were like seeing sales go up or down. It was just like, oh, by the way, how and so the fact that it hadn't spent indicated that it hadn't been managed. That was really the only thing. It didn't affect their business really. I know
It
it
didn't.
sounds weird, but like it was
Yeah.
not like it was a very indirect relationship between what was going on in paid search and what their actual business was doing.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So they still made their sales target. That didn't make too much of a huge difference. Like, how did you? So, and you were the one that figured it out, or was it like the your contact that was like, wait, what's going on here?
I honestly don't remember how it came up. They might have figured it out when they got like this insertion order and like, hey, this thing needs to be re-signed, or else I got it. And I was like, oh wait, that means it hasn't been running. Like if it might have been like my Google rep like reached out to me. It's like, hey, this thing needs, like we're flagging it now 3 weeks later.
Okay.
One of those things.
Okay. Also, and like, how long a period was it offline for?
It was
No,
probably like 3 weeks, they could say.
it was
I mean,
about
it's
three
somewhere
weeks.
between like 3 weeks and the whole month. It was somewhere around there, like where it's like not just like, oh yeah, we missed it, but it was 2 days later. It was like the majority of the month had passed when we caught it.
Yeah. So, what's your big lesson from that one?
I
What
mean,
would you
what they
advise on ways to avoid things like that?
I mean, I was just I like looking back, I'm like, how is that me doing that? Because like it's so weird that I just felt no accountability for like the management of it. Like if I remember right, I didn't report directly to the client. I was just like doing this back end
Hmm.
stuff. And they had like a different like client manager that reported. I think I just felt too removed from the process. And so it was just like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll help out or whatever. But like I would never ever do that. You know what I mean? Like that's and what they did is they're like, all right, well, we need to manage this better. Because to their point, I mean, they also dropped the ball, right?
Okay.
They didn't have anyone actually on their team that was able to do it, which is why they're subcontracting this out. They didn't do any sort of
Yeah.
check-ins or anything, so they should have been a lot more
Yeah.
accountable too. I mean,
Yeah.
both of us, like, I'm not trying to excuse what I did
Sure.
at
Yeah.
all, but like when you subcontract with someone, you have to have a check-in at some point,
Yeah.
like that needs to be
Absolutely.
going on. So then they got to be like really particular with, okay, here's our new like, guardrails, and like every
Great.
single week we had to like say, here's how many impressions it got, here's how many clicks, just so they could like make sure something was running. So
Running.
I mean, and fair enough, like it was a little overkill, but they didn't know how to do anything else. And so that's what, because they didn't know paid search, which is again why
No.
they had to outsource it. So I was like reporting them all these dumb numbers, like with weekly calls and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, those are the days. Those are the days early in
Yeah,
your career when you're literally like, you wish you were. It's not just about the paid search person's knowledge. It's about the people managing it and knowing how paid search works with the other
right.
channels and knowing what they should be hearing from it. It's almost how I even see how we need to be working with AI about how if you don't understand what good quality information is, AI can give you any bunch of nonsense and you just be like, well, it's AI, so yay, copy and paste.
Right.
And you've got to be careful not to be the kind of person that does that. So, rounding up this part of the story, we're going to move on to talking about other mistakes that you've seen in our industry. But before we do that, what's your takeaway that you want to leave our audience with?
I mean, everyone makes mistakes, and hopefully, the further along in your career, the easy it becomes to look back on it and not feel like that defines you, because it doesn't need to. But it's hard at the moment to feel like not defined by something, because you probably define yourself by being really good and not making those mistakes. When you do, it's really hard, but it does get easier the more distance there is, and it's just part of the growing process, and everyone does it.
Absolutely. Exactly. And that's the thing. Everyone does this. The best of us have made mistakes. That's how you get your best learnings. That's how you know what guardrails to put in place. And so there's no point really like just going over it and mulling over it too long. Just try to learn from it, I'd say, and just move on. But things that people and our advertisers may not have moved on from in terms of what you might have seen and accounts that you've audited. You said you've audited quite a lot of campaigns and accounts. What are some of those big mistakes that you regularly see that, especially in let's say 2025, 2026 is still very young, but like in 2025, you feel that we should not be doing this? Yeah. What are some of your favorite mistakes, let's say?
I mean, I feel like the biggest mistake is that people are so tactic focused in what
Mm,
needs to be a strategy in an objective driven field,
yeah.
right? Like it's like, oh, what should my bid be? It's like, who cares? What is your landing page? Oh, I don't know. Like what? Like we need to be like so focused on what the searcher needs, like what the goal is of the account, how well does the landing page solve that problem, like what's the whole sequence of conversion. And it's just so easy to focus on like, well, let me just get the right little setting set up, and then that's it. It's like you can have that all be great and still not get conversions because you're missing like this huge other part. And that's, I see that over and over and over again. It's like we're in the weeds of something, but it's that Stephen Covey quote, where like the manager is like getting people to like chop down trees, and it's the leader that climbs up the tree and looks around and says, hey, we're in the wrong jungle. Like anyone can have someone like, using machetes to chop down a tree, but are you chopping down the right trees? Like
Right.
it's just,
Yeah.
we're just in the wrong
Yeah.
headspace a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like in a lot of like especially when a lot of people started getting into consultancy and kind of work, I feel it was easier to sell like your tactical skills. Like I'm great with optimizations. I know all the updates that are going on in Google Ads and that kind of thing. And sometimes I feel sometimes it's harder to sell what your strategic capabilities are, kind of thing, which it's now that's in a skill in itself, being able to sell what matters to people. But it's definitely very much more important that we do that because especially with AI taking all the, especially like the easy tactical stuff
Mhm.
away,
Mhm.
what is left for you to do if you've not sold what your strategic capabilities are? So like going into like, specifically with AI, what are some of the most of the biggest mistakes that you see?
Well, I think you just kind of hit on it when you just can have AI produce anything. You're like, oh, it sounds good. AI wrote it, right? Like this thing that is kind of always in my head is this TED talk that I heard a while ago that was someone saying, how does it feel to be wrong? And people are like, oh, it's embarrassing. Oh, it's, shameful or whatever. And like, no, that's how it feels to find out that you were wrong. Being wrong, it feels exactly the same as being right. And
Yeah,
when you have AI give you an answer like, "That sounds right," like, it's designed to create something like, "Yeah, that sounds right." It could be 100% wrong, but it feels right because that's what it's trying to do, is to give you something that
yeah,
sounds like it could be the right answer. So the more you know about a subject, the more you're gonna be able to poke holes in what you get or say, "Hey, yeah, this is actually really good," or, "No, it's not." But if you don't know anything, you're like, "That sounds right," and then you don't even know
yeah.
how far removed it is from, like, any sort of source of truth, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is a very fair point. Like, it's the feeling, the feeling of finding out that you're wrong is what annoys us. Like, even like the stories that you shared when you were doing the thing you were doing, telling like, in that meeting, saying that no, the creative is wrong. You were doing the right thing in that moment. It's finding out that you went about it the wrong way that made you then go up, and there's such a difference because we never think we're wrong. I think I've definitely had meetings with people when like I feel like it's someone who's like my manager is more senior to me and they're asking me like, so what should you have done different? I'm like, if I knew, I'd already be in the same spiral right now. I know
Right.
how it feels. I have no idea that the things that I've been doing are so wrong. Can you tell me what has been wrong so that I can change it? So yeah, some of those meetings that with managers need to be better and just straight to the point and stop making it a minefield of like, guess what you did wrong? I'm like,
Right.
everything. I think I've done everything wrong. Can you just tell me which one it is? Because yeah, the imposter syndrome can be strong in our minds if we're not careful. But even talk, what I also like talking about in terms of like these kind of situations. Have you managed people before?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've managed teams. Like, what has been your experience with people who have made mistakes? And, what's your been experience? Do they tend to hide it away, or are they more open about it?
I mean, it totally depends on the person. It's easier to work with people who like own up for it. I think a lot of people don't like to, and like before they'll tell you what happened, they'll like come up with a list of 5 reasons, like kind of 5 excuses, like, well,
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of human nature, but it's just easier when
yeah,
it's like, all right, here's what happened and how we're gonna fix it. I think that that's one thing that I had to. I mean, we all have to learn, but like I had
mhm,
this really good manager whose whole thing was like, the whole point of this is for us to be able to accomplish this thing, right? Like to work on
yeah,
this account. So if you know that you don't have the bandwidth, if something comes up, like let me know so that we can solve for it, right? Like everything is about like how we're going to solve for this together. And it's not like, did you meet this requirement? Yes or no. It's like, how are we going to bring this thing to pass. And that was it was so interesting because I just hadn't had managers like that before in my career where they're focused on like the bigger goal, not just like, did you do your part, yes or no, and like you get in trouble for it.
yeah, absolutely. And that goes into straight into like the question I do like to ask about what's your advice to managers, to either their team or to the people who report into them, and to how they should approach mistakes, and why is it important to especially make it clear that mistakes will happen and actually to scale them through the process? Is it for the person being managed to figure out and do it the right way, or can managers do something to ensure that they instill a level of being accountable, the person being accountable and saying, okay, I'm going to report it and I'm going to say what happens? How can managers help in those processes?
Yeah, I think it is just about emphasizing the importance of it being like a literal team effort and
Hmm.
not just like an individual thing where you are pass or fail, but like we're all working together on this and how can we like redistribute the workload if needed, or how can we all support each other and everyone kind of working for that common goal as opposed to just like, well, you messed up and I'm like keeping tabs on that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no. And what's your advice to our LinkedIn community who never share their mistakes?
I mean, it's scary to share mistakes, and so, like, I think you have to figure out if there's a benefit for it. Like, you'll see most people who share mistakes is like, "This happened a long time ago." And I mean, same with
Yeah.
me. I didn't tell you something that I did last week that was dumb. I'm telling you about something that happened 10 years ago that was dumb. because it's just easier, like, for everything that's not paid search specific, right? We have an easier time having a better perspective about it the more time has passed.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. And because I want to do this for our guests of January, at the beginning of the year, 2026, we're gonna have another year of maybe 2 updates a week that we're gonna try to wrap our heads around. What's your prediction for this year as to how Google is gonna, you know, what they're gonna push towards? It's probably gonna be AI, but like, what do you think that people should really be look out for and prepare for 2026?
Gosh, I don't know. I think I think at a macro level, if you watch what Google's doing, like they haven't really changed tactics since I want to say like 2017. It's just more of the same, right? Like
Yeah.
they got on this trajectory and they're still on that trajectory
Mm,
snowballing, but it didn't
yes.
change course, right?
No.
So
Okay.
we're still going there. So like it's still just how can they get more money from you? How can they take away controls that you might use to benefit your clients because we have two different objectives. We're trying
Yeah.
to, be more efficient and they're trying to drive more click volume, more
Yeah.
costs, right? And so just being aware like we do not share a goal, so everything they do that is for their goal and not mine, I'm going to opt out of. Like that to me is
Yeah.
like the most important thing. It's not like, "Hey, how can I try every beta?" How can I take
Yeah.
reps all the time? Like, just kinda going in there, "What is your objective? Does this help your objective? No. No, thanks." I don't care how many updates you do. I'm not gonna just, like, opt in because there's more.
You do come across as very level-headed, as someone who's not just flying with the wind with every new updates, and I definitely feel that we need more people like that, and that is should be our biggest advice for our audience. Try not to be getting too excited with every single post. For me, what annoys me is that I know it's the strategy of some experts to be like, look, I find out about this update first, major update, and they're getting all flashy with the pictures that they're putting
Mhm.
together. And I'm like, guys, not everybody, not every 30,000 of your followers needs this updates in their life. So yeah, we feel like we sensationalize a lot of things, which yeah, if you're working for the target of your client and you're meeting those targets, you just need to stay the course on that, and not every beta is going to move you in the right direction. So we've
Right,
all got to be careful.
right.
Thank you so much, Amy. This has been such a fantastic chat and such great learnings from someone so experienced as yourself. So thank you so much for that and taking the time to do this. One last question, a nice, fun, non not non PPC kind of thing. If your PPC career were a movie, what would the title be?
So, my answer to this is a little bit cheeky, but it's practical magic. Because So so my business is paid search magic, right? And that is just
Yeah.
based on like when I was really like when I started my business, and this is like back in 2015, I want to say that like I came up with the name as another couple years before I like left and made it my own thing, but I still had this kind of thing where it was just like I just felt like the results you can get from paid search were just like magical. Like you control these settings and levers, you can do all stuff to
Mm,
optimize to do more of what's working and less of what's not. And you could just get these like magical results. And it was like so amazing to be able to create that where everything else is like a much longer game and whatever. So
yeah.
like that magic component I've really held on to, but at the same time there are definitely times where I have to say, well, it's not magic. Like people who
Yeah.
just like expect instant results or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
it's so deeply based in strategy and yeah, like there's tech and art and science and everything, but like there's a real practical side of it. We're not just going to be able to like
Yeah.
10x something overnight. Or I mean, sometimes you can.
Yeah.
If it was really, really bad, you can 10x it,
Yeah.
but for the most part, like we do need we need a real clear strategy and not it's not just gonna like be some sort of magic thing. So practical magic I think is probably a good combination of words that would describe my career.
Absolutely. I totally really enjoyed that explanation. And like, cause genuinely cause when I first started my career in like 2008, like I started with a little bit of a stint in SEO, and I found it, especially way back then, it was very basic. There were not all these, tech, companies that I helped you really, position. So it was all about, I'll speak to the web admin for a different site and be like, can you put a link of my client on yours? It was very salesy. I hated it. And then maybe after
Mhm.
3 months, I went to another job, a job interview, and they were like, "Yeah, there's paid search, and the more I learned about it, you'll write an ad and you see your ad like 2 minutes, and I was like, that felt like magic. That felt like, whoa, that's so immediate. Obviously, the performance is not immediate. We tell people mix around, but yeah, being able to just see that whole, you can see it straight away, and that's why I also feel like SEO PPC should really work well to each other, because you can test things a lot quicker on paid search, and then know whether you put the efforts into SEO. You have the breadth of the knowledge of the digital marketing channel, so that's not something I need to tell you. I'm sure you're fully aware of that. So yeah, that's I think practical magic for your career. That sounds fantastic. So yeah, this has been such a great chat. Thank you so much, Amy, again for joining us. And before we leave our audience, where can people find you talking and giving some some of your amazing advice on the different platforms?
So paid search magic, you can go there, sign up for my newsletter. I usually will share things that way. I'm not the best at social media. Like every year, I feel like I'm like, this is the year I'm gonna do it, and I'm
Right.
like, I'd still prefer not. No thanks.
Oh, I
I'll lurk
understand that.
sometimes, but I'll post like never.
If you ever post, what's the one platform people should probably maybe expect to hear some
I
insight
mean,
from?
let's say LinkedIn, because where
Yeah.
else?
Where
LinkedIn.
I know it used to be Twitter, and then that just became a bit of like, oh
Yeah.
God, a
No.
hellscape. So
No.
yeah, no, I totally understand. Well, that has been a fantastic, great chat. We'll share all the links for, Paid Search Magic, and yeah, Amy's LinkedIn, and you can just lurk and see whether she comes out with any brilliant insights in 2026. Who knows? Even if it's just one, who knows? It will be a fantastic one to take away with. So thank you so much, Amy, and that's been a great chat. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. Bye. Thank you so much, Amy, for sharing that very honest and transparent retelling of that story of something that like all of us would feel very heartbreaking to even relive or to think back again. And that's really why I'm so grateful to all our speakers. It's not just that they're brave, but something that they're willing to go back and retelling, even though, yeah, they know that they've come through out of it. They know their success now, but still just thinking about that mistake can just make all your arms tingle in not the nice way at all. So yeah, remember that, the longer it goes, the longer the time goes, the less you feel so bad about that mistake. And sometimes it might be the right thing to do. And it was similar to, Anthony Higgman's, lesson. It might be the right thing to do, but it might be done the wrong way. So you just need to watch out for that and make sure you get advice even from someone else to ensure that you're approaching things the right way. For all the information and the full transcript of that fantastic show, please go to podcast.ppc.live. So yeah, another PPC Live event update as I do usually. Tickets are live. Tickets are still live. Please go to ppc.live. Please don't leave it to last minute. I know a lot of folks kind of make their mind up the Monday of the week the week that they want to go to an event. And I do get that, post-Christmas can be a little bit bank balance draining. So yeah, I totally understand. But yeah, it's only £50 for a ticket. Lots of other events are like in the 400, 500, 600,000 pounds. £50 to see an international speaker like Niels Rujman, as well as Kat Sale and Dave Alexander, both part of agencies that are award winning. So they're going to give advice about stuff that is working, that is winning them awards. So you need to be there. You want to be there. That's on the 5th of February. Go to ppc.live to get tickets for that. Before I leave you, yes, again, I'm also delighted to share that I am taking on coaching clients, PPC mindset coaching clients. So yeah, just go to themarketinganu.com to book a time with me to discuss challenges you're facing, what you want to get out of this year. That promotion that you want to get, that pay rise you want to get, that new job you want to get, that manager you want to get off your back. So anything that might relate to you ensuring that this year is your best year for your career. Yeah, let's talk about that. Get in touch with me. Go to themarketinganu.com to book a free 15-minute discovery call so that we can discuss what is going to work for you. All right. Thank you so much for listening to that. And yeah, I hope you join us next week for more talking about triumphs and F-ups from PPC experts. Thank you very much. Bye.